Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Hi, everybody. It's Julie Schrager. Thanks so much for joining me. Welcome to Nothing But Julie podcast. And I'm so excited to have you guys here because I am interviewing a very dear friend of mine that I've known, oh my God, how long have we known each other? A long time.
I mean, you didn't have Jake when we met. So over 25 years.
Yes, it's got to be 27, 28 years. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. So we have known each other quite a long time. And my friend's name is Nicola Vitkovich, and she works as a transformation life coach. She educates her clients on how their minds work. She teaches them how to make real changes in the way they think and behave. And she's also a certified faster EFT eutaptics practitioner. And she holds numerous certifications in hypnotherapy, modern energy tapping, Tiny Habits coaching, and is also a Jack Canfield Success Principles trainer. Wow. Welcome, Nicola.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so awesome.
Oh, I love you and I miss you and I can't wait to see you. We have to make plans to get together soon.
Definitely. I love you and miss you too. It's been incredibly too long.
Really way too long. So anyway, I wanted to have Nicola, and excuse me if I say Nick or Nikki, because that's all I've ever called her. I'm not used to Nicola.
Oh, Nikki, it's fine.
But so I want to just kind of, delve into some of the things that you do, because you do quite a lot. And FYI, for those that are listening, she is actually going to be doing hypnotherapy with me because apparently I hold lots of stress in my shoulders and my traps. And I need to, I guess, figure out why and find a way to, well, not store it there. So I'm really excited for a session together. So why don't we first hit on EFT and eutaptics? Maybe you can explain what it is and what it is that you do.
Sure. So I discovered emotional freedom technique, which is probably the big broader term for the tapping modalities, back in 2010 when I was going through a divorce and I was having a lot of anxiety issues, and anxiety being a really good skill I'd had most of my life. I was able to have some really big panic attacks, and anxiety was just something that would happen as easily as breathing for me. So I found emotional freedom technique through the Ortners on probably Dr. Mercola's website, if memory serves correct. And they were doing their World Tapping Summit. So I started learning this thing that looked really strange, but it was really helping. And it involves tapping on these energy meridians that are like, think of acupuncture. It's points that you'd use your fingers to tap on as opposed to having a needle put in those meridians, and it helps you shift what you're feeling in your body. It helps you change what you're doing in your mind. And then a couple of years later, I was really diligently doing the traditional EFT. Then I found what was called faster EFT, and I'm now a eutaptics practitioner and a practitioner of some other tapping modalities too, because it is one of the most impactful tools I've ever learned for helping myself feel better. And also I decided to leave being a personal trainer to start helping people change their thinking with these tools, because it's so much more powerful than what I was able to do as a trainer.
Sure.
And I just adore it. It's basically the mind and body are a feedback loop, right? What you think, you feel, but you can use the body to inform the mind. So when you use the tapping, it allows, there's a part of the brain called the amygdala, that's your threat detection system, and it's, it's always out there, it's always there looking for threats. And once that goes off, you feel it in your body. But when you apply the tapping, I think of it personally as like Morse code. It's telling the amygdala, everything's fine, you're okay. And it helps you create those shifts, because whatever it was that your mind detected that set off that threat and made your body respond, when the body calms again through the tapping, the mind reframes what it was thinking and the importance or the perception of that thing that was triggering. And that's one of the ways that we create change with it. And it's been very impactful. I don't have anxiety attacks anymore. I don't have panic attacks. And I've become no matter what's going on, I'm pretty much calm all the time. So I've got these skills and I can just apply them as needed and change my thinking and change how I feel and change how I behave.
That's incredible. So what's the difference between the EFT and the faster EFT, or is that the same? I think you said it was different.
No, they are different. So the traditional emotional freedom technique uses a lot more tapping points. That's one difference, and then they go about it differently. Faster EFT has a very specific presupposition that works with it's going to use pattern interrupts. One of the things that Robert Smith, the creator of Faster EFT, teaches that everything that we do is basically a skill. And when you use the tapping, there's something called defractionation. You're interrupting a pattern in the mind that allows us to change the pattern. It gives us this, the best way to explain is, have you ever been talking to someone and got interrupted and forgot what you were saying?
Really?
Like all the time, right?
Like especially now, yes.
Right. So for that's probably my favorite way to explain defractionation is you get this pattern, we aim at whatever it is that you want to change, and then we use the tapping or some other skills to create that interruption, that pattern interrupt. And in that gap between the trigger and the pattern interrupt, you've got this space to do something new. And as a practitioner, we learn how to use that space to give suggestions and commands to create change.
Wow. It sounds like something that would be really great for pretty much everyone. And is it something also that you can teach younger, like children?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've done this with children for sure.
Have you really? Wow.
Yep.
So there are children that have anxiety at such a young age that, and it's really great, especially with everything that's been happening with COVID, and lots of kids have been getting more anxiety being at home versus, being at school. So, I can understand how that could help. So now what is modern energy tapping? I know that you have a plethora of different tapping ones, but I was just really curious too about the modern energy tapping.
So it's another tapping modality. And with the modern energy tapping, one of the things that we do is focus on how you want to feel, right? There's I want to say presupposition, but in modern energy tapping, you're focusing on the energy body, right? It's not so much about the mind, but it's our energy body around us. And problems stem from a contraction in the energy body where things get tangled up and energy isn't moving or flowing. And then you use the tapping in their way to get that to where your energy is flowing up to where you get to a positive 10. So say you want to feel happy, or you want to feel successful, or you want to feel calm, you're going to use that with the tapping points until you get to this positive 10 where everything's flowing optimally.
Wow. It sounds so interesting. So when it comes to tapping, do your clients, is it a one-time thing, or is it something that they need more than that, or something that they just want to, have someone like you to contact every so often or however long it is because maybe there's something new, or they just need reinforcement?
So yes, it could be all of the above. I've done some one-time sessions with people and they've had really good results. I do packages with people, so typically 3 or 6 sessions where we have a particular issue to resolve. And then there's also every once in a while touching back, doing a session for like a touch up or something new came up and they know how to tap, but there's something sticky in it that they just can't get to themselves and they need that outside perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So
So with
sometimes any of the above.
yeah. So with the advent of like video chat because of COVID, and we have Zoom and Microsoft Teams, I know with what you do, you don't always need to do it face to face, and you've probably already used FaceTime and other things like Zoom, but has it become more of a thing where people would personally like to reach out to you doing it that way, or do you prefer doing it face to face?
Before COVID happened, I was almost 85% working off of Zoom or Skype at the time. Now it's pretty much all Zoom. And even though we've opened up, I still have been doing Zoom. I haven't had anyone in person in a while. So this has been mostly online video
Yeah.
modality for me.
Which, seems to be, here to stay because there's a lot of companies and not big corporations, but there are companies, whether they're small or medium sized companies, where they're not reopening their doors, but they are still working behind the computers. Excuse me. And so because of that, you have so many people that are still able to work at home and use Zoom and Teams or Skype or whatever, even FaceTime. My husband, he still hasn't gone back to work. I mean,
Really?
yeah, he did. Well, actually, he did do 2 face-to-face meetings just recently. But with the company he works for, he has to always wear a mask. But honestly, that's it. Since March of 2020, he's mostly been doing Zoom calls with people or FaceTime.
Wow.
I know. It's like, and his company doesn't, they were saying probably September, you can start doing more face to face. But now with the Delta variant, I,
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen. It's just really scary, but it's it's really great to have this technology, especially for a job that you have, because it really can reach out to anyone all over the globe. Do you
Yeah,
have people from all over, or is it just in
I
the
do.
US? You
No,
do.
I've been working with people all over the world and for years. So
That is so cool. So how do most people hear about what it is that you do? How do they navigate?
I would say the majority is through word of mouth. It's
Yeah,
that's that's always been a big word of mouth. And I have a website and I have a Facebook business page and I go to BNI or Business Networking International, and so I get out and I meet people too. But
right.
it's always been a very big word of mouth thing.
Yeah. Well,
It's-
word of mouth, I think, is the best way to go anyways. But, when you can have a personal referral,
Yep.
because I usually do that with my life in general, whether it's a doctor or whatever. So let's move on to hypnotherapy. But I know what it is, but do you have a specific technique when you do it? And how do you do it with those people that are not right in front of you?
I, it works amazingly well on
Yeah.
Zoom, believe it or not. It's if you really engage with a person and you watch them, you know when they're going in and out of trance in the first place. And even a tapping session, it's all relating to trance, going into past trances that are impacting you and controlling you in a negative way currently. So being able to recognize that, you just learn to work with it. And I build a lot of hypnosis or trance into my tapping sessions. They're quite blended. So while I do formal hypnotherapy sessions, that's not what I do as frequently as using it within the tapping sessions themselves,
Right.
because it's. Mhm.
No, that was going to be my next question. If it's
Yeah.
a separate thing or if you do it, because I was curious about, I mean, I know what hypnotherapy is, but discussing
Hmm.
tapping sounds almost like something while you're awake. It's
Hmm.
almost like an awake hypnotherapy type of thing, learning how to alleviate, certain emotional things going on. And my mom actually, I don't know, like 20 years ago saw a hypnotist because she couldn't stop smoking. And
Hmm. Hmm.
although I'm sure your technique is much better than the previous hypnotherapist, regardless, it worked. One session and she stopped. But my mom is very strong willed. So I think you also need to have it, I think, in you to really want it to succeed as well.
Yeah, if for any change to happen, the person has to want to make the change. It doesn't matter what modality you use. If someone doesn't want to change,
Yeah.
change is not going to last.
You see, I agree wholeheartedly. And with
Yeah.
hypnotherapy, I mean, are there certain techniques that you use that are different from the norm or what people might think, like with the stopwatch going back and forth? That's all you are
Yeah.
getting sleepy. No, but
Right. Yeah. No,
I'm
I'm not
serious.
using a stopwatch. It's yeah. But everyone has their own fixed idea of what hypnotherapy is. And I think it's actually a part of it is understanding what they are expecting or what they believe it is, because you want to almost pace their experience. It's different than that. Like when I first started learning it, I thought I would be completely unaware. Like you think you're going to be asleep and you're just going to come out of it and not be aware of anything that happened, and yet you are entirely aware the whole time. I mean, I hear the voices, I hear the talking, I'm present to it,
Right.
and yet magic still happens. It's so much bigger than I expected. The way it works is so much more interesting than I had thought it was. So
Wow. You
yeah,
know, you
it's
you can tell how much you love what you do. I can hear it in your voice. I'm so happy for you. I remember all the different things that you did. And those of you that are listening, Nikki and I actually met at work forever ago, and I didn't know anything about Excel, and thank God you were so patient. We used to IM each other. That's what they used to call it instead of DMing.
yeah.
Like, how do you do this? How do you do that? I must have done it 25 times a day, if not more. And you were kind of like my teacher, but that's kind of, that little room in the hotel. Remember that? Oh
I
my
do.
God.
Oh my goodness. You remember walking past people sitting in their underwear to get to our office?
Oh my God. Oyster Bay,
Yeah,
New York.
I know. That was special.
I sure was. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about real quick about the hypnotherapy. Do you base the type of hypnotherapy on the specific problem, the specific person, or is it
Mm.
kind of like a one size fits all, but you might tweak it a little?
So with me, it's always going to be adapting to what the person needs. What's the issue? What is the outcome that you want? And then I'm going to decide on what tools I think will be the best, because obviously I have many different tools to choose from. And so I'm not going to go at every issue with a wrench. I'm going to think, okay, a wrench might be good here, but there's also a screwdriver
Mm,
or a hammer, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to hammer a change into someone, but you get what I mean. It's just going to decide what's going to be best for this person,
right.
and I adapt. I learned a long time ago that the practitioner needs to be the most adaptable person in the room. If I'm not adapting, then I'm not going to be able to adequately help someone. We don't
Yeah.
try and make them change to work with my tools. I adapt to work with how they're creating their problem.
Wow. Very interesting. All right, so let's move on to tiny habits coaching. I need to know what that is. All of this sounds so great.
Yeah, so Tiny Habits. It's I got this book in December. I think it was December. It came out in paperback, and it actually thought I was going to get it in November, and it finally came in December. It's by BJ Fogg, and he has really cracked the code on behavior design and habit formation. So as I'm reading the book, I decided to go to the website. He has a free 5-day Tiny Habits coaching program. And then I saw they had a certification. So I looked up that, and it happened to be starting like in the next week, and they had a space. So I was like, all right, the universe is talking. Let's do this. And the reason it was of interest to me is because I'm not looking to create lifelong clients. I'm not having you come to me to fix your problems. I'm having you come to me to learn the skills so you can change your problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest potholes in that was getting people to use tapping on their own, to visualize, to do any of the things that I would give them in a program, was getting them to do it. So I had to learn what really makes a behavior stick. And that's where the Tiny Habits program came in, because I learned that behavior is a factor of having three things in the right moment. There's it's called BMAP. So you need to have a prompt, right? So that's the P. You have to have, I guess I should have started with M, motivation. That's the first thing. Ability, right? You have to be able to do it, and you have to have a prompt that cues the behavior. And your motivation and your ability are on a continuum, right? So sometimes we're highly motivated, and sometimes we're absolutely not motivated at all. And then we have good days and bad days. So on a good day, we have really high ability, but on a bad day, our ability might be really low. So when it comes to creating a behavior that'll stick, you're going to alter the motivation, the ability, and that prompt so that it can happen without, it just happens flawlessly. And I learned how to do that. So now my clients are doing what they need to do. I'm teaching them the tiny habits. I do the free 5-day tiny habits program too. So anybody can learn how to create their recipes, and it's making the biggest difference, because if I can get people tapping every day, working on themselves, visualizing what they want, then they really start to change.
Wow. I mean, it sounds amazing. And like I said before, the person really needs to go into this with an open mind. And not that it's a bad thing. I just think that when you go in with an open mind, because you're learning something new, it's not traditional, like going to see a therapist or, getting medication. I mean, it's not always a quick fix, but the quick fix is learning about it and being able to put it to work. And that's where the quick fix is. And how quickly you get there is really, I think, all dependent on, how much you really want to learn, and then take what they learn and then use it.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to use it and you're not going to push yourself for a little bit of change, because, like, your brain has known, let's say you're a 25-year-old and somebody is contacting you for help. Well, they've had that brain for 25 years and they're used to doing what they're doing. It's not always easy to just kind of slowly turn the dial a different way, but they obviously are contacting you for a reason. And that's to help with whatever it is and to help change. So got to go in there with an open mind. So now let's talk about Jack Canfield's Success Principles, being a trainer. Now, who is that? What is it? Is that a book? Is it a man?
Yeah. So Jack Canfield, have you ever heard of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series?
Of course. Yeah.
That's Jack Canfield.
Are you serious?
Yes.
How did I not? I thought it was written by a woman.
No. Well, I mean, he co-writes many of them. So there are some that have women co-authors.
Yeah, of course. But I never knew that. It wasn't even a familiar name, but now I know.
Yeah. So he's also written what I would call the Success Bible, which is called the Success Principles. Mm-hmm. And I love those. So I started my business Faster Changes in 2014, and it was really challenging. If you rewind back to like 2000, I had started a personal chef business. I remember. Nicola's Enchanted Whisk. And
I remember you getting your very first set of expensive knives, and you were so excited and upset about spending the money, but you needed them. That I remember.
I definitely did need. I still have
a lot of those knives. You do?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Well, you don't throw away knives, right? You just sharpen them. So
you've just moved a bunch of times, so you never know what might get lost. But yeah, that's
me. So yeah, but I knew nothing about being in business. Plus I had all these hangups and I had limiting beliefs. And so it crashed and burned.
Mm.
And that was that. In 2015, I heard about the book and I got the book, and I would go in my office every morning. I'd read one chapter and take action. And, each chapter was a success principle. And I learned so much about it. And it really helped me get my business off the ground and get out of my own way too.
Mm.
And with the tapping, we release these bad limiting mindsets that hold us back. But one of the important things is you need to learn new behaviors. When you let go of an old behavior, there's this space now. But what is useful is you need to put something new in there, right? We don't just stop doing something. We have to literally do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when you see someone who's quit smoking, they're walking around, sucking on a straw or something, because they need to do something else, right? So I had to learn new habits, and my clients need the same thing. So I draw on those skills that I've learned to teach these new habits. There's new things that you can do to, because the success principles isn't just about having a business. It's about how to create the life you want.
Yeah. I'm going to get that book because it sounds amazing.
It is. I love that book. I've read it. I've listened to it. In my newsletter, I focus on one success principle a month, and I just dive into that one. How do I apply it to my life? How do I add tapping to it? What would be a tiny habit you can use with it? And it's an ongoing thing. I'm always reviewing something from that book.
Yeah. It's like a Bible now. Yep. I wish that you had done this when we had first met or prior to that, because I actually, when I was younger, and I don't think I ever told you this, but, let's see, it was maybe 4 years before I met you. I had seen a behavioral therapist for almost a year and went to him for a year, and he had these worksheets. And it started off with, like, let's say I was dealing with anxiety. So it started with, what's wrong? Okay, it's anxiety. And then it was like a few questions about, why are you feeling this way? How does it make you feel? Can you think of what it was that's making you feel this way? And then, like, the very last question was, how are you feeling now? And it was amazing. After I filled out all these empty spaces, I was calmer, or whatever was bothering me almost went away. And that was his technique. His technique was kind of asking yourself these questions to bring yourself down to what the root problem is.
Right.
And I know it doesn't make sense, and I'm missing a lot of pieces, but it was a year's worth of work, and I must have changed my personality 180 degrees and walked out of there a totally different person. Now, I could probably use your help because I definitely need some tweaking, because it's been like 25 years. But to be so young, so young and know that there's an issue and find someone that can help you and help you so well, which is why I think he just did one thing. It was behavioral therapist and just had his own thing. But you do so many different things that if someone comes to you saying, I have anxiety, or I can't get over the death of someone, or the breakup of someone, or OCD, whatever it might be, you have a plethora of things that you can choose from to really help them with, instead of just, like I said before, the one size fits all. Okay. What is law of attraction, and how is that relevant to tapping?
So, the law of attraction, in short, is basically what you think about, you bring about. And most of us spend a lot of time thinking about things that we don't want to have happen in our lives. And the problem is if that's where your focus and your energy goes, you tend to bring around more of that instead. So the law of attraction, as far as tapping goes, is I teach people how to focus on what they want, to get really clear on what they want. Because just the way you talk to yourself about things, like let's take financial stuff, for instance, I want to be debt free. Most people say that, and yet the focus is on debt. So if you're focusing on not wanting debt, you're just telling your mind that you want debt, because that's the message it's getting is debt, debt, debt. So you've got to create that shift to, well, what do you really want that isn't debt? Is it financial freedom? Is it a certain income level? Is it a certain amount of money in savings? Like, what does that positive state related to finances mean to you? And then we use the tapping to let go of limiting beliefs. Because I had to do a lot of work on my finances and my beliefs about finances and my thoughts about money. So just letting go of the identity, I'm bad with money, that was one of mine. Yeah. And putting in the positive beliefs, and positive behaviors, and getting rid of the procrastination. Like, I didn't even want to open bills or things like that. Things would just pile up. And I was shooting myself in the foot by not even just opening things and taking care of them, because then there was late fees that were completely avoidable. But I had this thing where I didn't even I couldn't deal with it. I made it bigger in my head than it ever needed to be. So with the tapping and getting clear on what I want, I have a completely different relationship with money. I've read this book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. So it's a really great way of managing your business finances. And I use something called You Need a Budget, or YNAB, as I call it. So I'm very proactive with money, and it's made all the difference in the world. But I needed tapping to get there, to let go of the limiting beliefs, let go of the doubts and the fears and the procrastination and everything that got in the way from learning new skills and taking proactive action.
I think that a lot of people have become more procrastinators ever since COVID, because I am not a typical procrastinator. I like things done yesterday, but but I have to admit, I definitely have learned to procrastinate on some things since COVID, because it's like, it's still going to be there tomorrow. I know it will be there tomorrow, so I can do it.
Right.
But it's hard for me, to put things off so much. But I do know people where it really is, it affects their lives. And it's not even, I know I'm joking about it, but to some people, it's really not a joke. It becomes almost like a mental incapacity, because it affects their lives, it affects their jobs, it affects their kids, their family. I mean, so it can turn into a real problem with that. So, well, is there anything that I've missed that you might want to talk about? Oh, I did have one more question, actually. Is there a difference between collateral changes and faster changes?
Oh, so Faster Changes is my business name.
Okay.
Collateral Changes is a group that I created, and it's a monthly tapping session that I'll do where I work on one person, and then everyone else who attends taps along and creates their own changes, because there's a thing in EFT called borrowing benefits. When people tap along with someone who's being coached, the mind naturally creates its own changes, because it gives meaning to the words that are being said, and the tapping does that. It's magic that it does. So collateral changes basically means I'm working with one person in the webinar, but the people who attend are creating their own collateral changes. You don't necessarily know what you're going to change when you come and you tap along on an issue, but something will change for you, because your mind is going to find its own unique resources and create meaning, and the change happens. So that's where that group came from. I've been doing that for several years now, and it's a lot of fun.
Didn't collateral changes come before faster changes, or is it vice versa?
No, faster changes came first. Collateral change has been around 3 or 4 years now.
So what is, excuse me, the Facebook lives? I know you had one or two where you were doing tapping. What is that?
So in my group, Collateral Changes, so I've got the Facebook group, and then I will do a weekly Facebook Live where I do some tapping with the people who attend, and I teach people kind of like a shortcut Faster EFT that I do, where you're thinking of how you want to feel, and we're just aiming at that. And so that's like tapping for feeling calm, or tapping for feeling worthy, or let's see, on Friday last week we tapped for feeling resilient, and feeling self-love. So I basically start the Facebook Live, and whoever's on the call just says what would they like to work on today.
I'm going to try and attend the next one, because I stopped in for a second. I was in the parking lot waiting for my husband, and I saw it. I must have gotten an alert on Facebook. I'm like, oh, let me go in and see. And like literally as soon as I went in, he like came into the car, and I was like, ah. So but I think I do get notifications, when you're on. But anyway, so like I asked earlier, is there anything else that you want to touch on or talk about?
I can't think of anything. You pretty much touched on everything.
I'm a good researcher, you know that. But
yes.
Okay, so now I'm just going to mention to those that are listening, if you want to contact Nicola, her website is fasterchanges.com. She is on Instagram as Faster Changes, and Nicola Vitkovich on Facebook. Did I miss it? Now, what about, you have the blog, and you said you have a newsletter? What else is going on?
I have a newsletter, and I have a business page. Sometimes I write articles on Medium, but I'm not a very prolific writer. I just have a handful of articles I've written there. So I wouldn't say I have a blog or anything.
Oh, okay. Well, guys, definitely check her out, because, aside from the fact that, excuse me, she is my friend, she really is incredibly talented. And, the first step is recognizing that you need help. And once you do, contact her. I mean, she's got so many different ways and different avenues for you to get in touch with her. So I love you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
This has been so cool. Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon.
I adore you.
I adore you. Love you.
Love you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.